Well, Bitcoin this morning creeping closer to the $100,000 mark. The drift higher comes after Garry Gensler, who led a crackdown on cryptocurrencies, announced that he's going to step down as chair of the SEC in January. Joining us now with more on this, we've got Yahoo Finance's David Hollerith. David, we've had a multitude of discussions of all of the decisions that have come from the SEC and regarding crypto more broadly here. What is the signal now once we see the step down from the position and then also a new administration in January?
Yeah, Brad, I think that most people, even before we even knew that the president-elect would be Donald Trump, were pretty sure that Gensler would not hang around. And that's because SEC chairs don't typically stay longer than one 4-year term. That's actually historically had been the case since the Clinton administration. So this wasn't really expected, but as you point out, it's a huge vibe shift. If we look back at the announcement yesterday that came from the SEC, it was immediately followed by a rally in Bitcoin. Bitcoin's obviously had a ton of momentum this week and since the election, and it's interesting too in that Bitcoin isn't really necessarily in the crosshairs of the SEC under the current Biden administration. But under SEC Chair Gary Gensler, there has been significant push to ramp up enforcement on the crypto space, particularly going after a series of larger players over what has essentially been kind of a dispute between the industry and regulators about how they should be regulated. And honestly, the lack of regulation. I think this is sort of ushering in the fact that there's going to be a clearer framework, or so we think. As far as Gensler leaving goes, it also sort of necessitates the question about what would be expected from the next SEC. And at the very least, without even thinking about the congressional part of what regulation could mean for crypto, the SEC could slow down the pace of the enforcement. They've been pretty frenetic under Gensler. And then also, too, they have a number of lawsuits standing out with firms like Coinbase and Kraken, and they could potentially retrench on those lawsuits in the next administration.
David, what about who could potentially replace Gary Gensler as the lead here as SEC chair? There's been lots of talk about Hester Peirce, but who else could potentially be in that mix?
Yeah, Shauna, it all kind of pivots at this point around who the Treasury Secretary pick is. And we have it from Capital Account, which covers Washington pretty closely. Ian Katz at Capital Account, that Hester Peirce is not actually interested in taking the role. And so if the next administration were looking to pick a new head of the SEC that was already inside the building, it would likely fall to Commissioner Mark Ueda. There's also a series of outside names that are likely contenders, and those include Brian Brooks, who is a former OCC head under Trump. Also Dan Gallagher, who used to work at the SEC and now is head of legal at Robinhood. So there's a lot of names still in the work, but I think that what the clear message is that no matter who it is, they would be more friendly than Gensler. He's had the pace of rulemaking, not just in crypto, has been pretty frenetic, and I think this is his stepping down is something that people in Wall Street and the crypto space generally are appreciating.
All right, David Hollerith, as always, thanks so much for hopping on and breaking this down for us.